The following program is intended for mature audiences and contains material which may be offensive to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the Extraordinary Friends Show. I'm Brian Balestri and I'm really excited about tonight's episode. So let's just jump right in. First off, my good friend Erik Swanson is tonight's co-host. Erik.
Hello, Brian.
How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here. Erik is the oldest friend I have. He is 1 day older than me.
Not the best friend you have, I noticed,
good
but
clarification.
the oldest, yeah.
The oldest, he is the best friend I have too. You are 1 day older than me.
I am, yep.
And,
born in the same town.
We grew up in the same church, and so we've known each other as long as two people can know each other, probably.
Yep.
So, question for you. You travel quite a bit.
I do,
And
yeah.
you fly as part of your job. How often do you fly a month, do you think?
Probably twice a month.
Okay. So you are familiar with flying and the pros and cons and the ins and outs of being on airplanes.
I've spent plenty of time in an airplane, yeah. So
All right.
I'm pretty familiar.
Great. So that brings us to our guest tonight, Jason Ostrowski. Jason, thanks for coming tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Jason, tell us what you do.
I'm a flight attendant. Been doing that for about almost 24 years now.
Really?
Yeah.
You look like you started when you were pretty young then, if you've been there for 24 years.
I did start pretty young.
How old? So you're a guy.
I was
can ask
19.
you, right?
I was
You're
19. Yeah, and I went to a business college, got done, didn't know what I wanted to do, and then someone said, hey, they're hiring at this airline, why don't you apply? So I applied, got hired, and I thought, oh, I'll give it a year. And I'm still there. So
you love it?
Yeah,
You
and
must,
it's like,
right?
it's a combination of things, because the job, it's what the job can give you, because it just the flexibility of the schedule and the time off, be able to do things, travel. It's kind of a combination of all that. Just what I like about the job.
It's like a recruitment video.
I know.
He's turning this into.
So we're on public access. You can't sell anything.
I know.
You can't sell the job. No. So that sounds great, though. I mean, so the flexibility is how often you work. Like, what are the hours that you work? Or
It depends on the type of schedule you want, because I choose to work at night. I fly out at night, come back in the morning, so I have my days free.
Okay.
So what's great for me, because I have kids, I can be there for the kids' programs and stuff like that. But when you're new, that isn't what happens. It's you get the worst schedule, the worst days, all the holidays, and that lasts for a few years. If you can get through that, then it gets better. If you can't,
the whole system's based on seniority.
Yes.
Right. So is there any performance factor in the seniority? Is it just number of days, number of years worked?
just seniority.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Is that how they decide who the lead person is on the flight? Like,
They have the choice, unless it's different with different airlines. There is a person that's called a purser, so they're in charge, and you have to go through a training for that. So they're the lead of the cabin, and then everyone else below that. But I'm not that person. I don't have to do that. So
wait. So is that a position that someone's? Is it a good position to have, or is it a?
they get paid more because they're in charge of more duties and they're in charge of money.
have to do the over the mic thing? With the,
No, that gets
shared?
delegated out.
Okay.
But really, if there's a complaint, that person will get called to talk to the customer or something. But
okay.
it depends on what flights there are. Those are on the bigger aircrafts with more flight attendants on. Smaller aircrafts with fewer flight attendants, it's just you. And a type of plane that I'm on has 2 flight attendants. And so
I think every flight out of this airport has 2 attendants. There's no big flights unless you're
Really?
going to Europe.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
Oh yeah, right. So if you're
they're
taking
really
Yeah.
no. I mean, they've really scaled down the size of the planes in the last couple of years.
And
so what are the types of planes you usually fly?
we have 2 aircrafts, and it's the regional carrier. So it's a 50-seat plane and a 76-seat plane.
That is pretty small.
Yeah.
And you like it that way? You like the smaller? Just because you can come back? Is that why?
What's nice about because it's a smaller carrier, but you can move up the ranks quicker in seniority, and you can be home more often. It has its perks, but you know, flying for a bigger carrier has its perks too, because you get to go farther places and spend more time
variety.
and a little bit more exotic places than Des Moines, Iowa. You know?
So where do you usually end up? So you say you fly out, stay overnight, and fly back in the morning. Is that how it
Yes.
works? Okay.
For what I try to do is take the shortest route, because that gets the most rest, and I'm back the quickest, and it's kind of like the biggest bang for your buck. Least amount of work, same amount of pay.
Sure.
And I could fly farther out. It's just the same pay. So
So a flight is paid based on the flight, not on the destination, sort of.
kind of both.
Okay.
You're guaranteed base pay, and if you don't go over that base pay, then everyone's making the same,
Okay.
no matter what you do. But if you're flying over that base, then you have to work enough to get over that, and then it does count the longer flights that you have to build it up quicker.
Yeah. So a flight to Japan gets paid more than a flight to Des Moines, Iowa.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
But a flight to Des Moines and a flight to Kansas City are probably pretty similar.
Well, Des Moines would be about just less than an hour. Kansas City probably be an hour and 30. So that person's just doing a little bit more.
Sure.
And there's more duties on a little bit longer flight. So it comes down to, you know, choice of schedule, what you want to work. And some people like that one that it's a little bit longer. Maybe they like that destination, so they choose that.
So can you work more hours? Like, so can you work, say, you know, more flights than other people, and meaning you can control how much money you make?
To a point. You have to have, with the regulations for hours worked, it's you have to have so many hours off in a 7-day period, and you can't do so much in a day, and it's just how it fits in a monthly schedule. If you can finagle everything, you can work more. It's just how you put it together.
But you don't go from here to Des Moines and back in one day. Huh?
You can.
Oh, you can.
I mean, I don't. I choose to do the overnight flight,
Got
so I go to work at 8:30 at night. I come home by 6 in the morning or 8:30 in the morning, and because I don't get a legal rest, and it's supposed to be at least 8 hours rest, I get about 6, and then I'm supposed to get the rest of that rest during the day. So I choose that type of schedule because it gives me more time off.
Oh,
Sure.
And so you have 2 daughters, and so
Yes.
you're home, you're with them. It's
Work
almost like
life.
a normal.
Yeah. I think for the first, when I did this type of schedule flying at night, my kids never thought I worked. They just thought I was always home. And I think they think, hey, Dad's just a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah, right. That's, except for the trips you get to go on, which
Yeah.
are awesome.
Simply
Yeah.
disappears every night, goes out of state, and is back before they wake up.
Except for they never knew that, because
Right.
we would put them to bed, and then I would leave. And I would get home before they'd wake up. So it's really like I was just home.
So, question that a friend asked that wanted to know the answer to this, and I have to admit, I like it too, which is, what's the oldest a flight attendant can be? And does it differ by airline? Because
There's no age. There's no
I
age
thought
limit,
so.
and it's really just ability. So if you're still able to do it and pass the training, you can keep doing it. If you can't pass it,
Yeah.
and there's been people that you just physical ability, you have to lift so many pounds because that's the doors, emergency doors we have to open up and stuff.
okay.
If you can't do those physical things anymore, then that's the time to retire. But
how
if
often
you can
do they
still,
check? How often?
every year we have to go through a training.
and you have to lift something? Like prove you can still lift something?
Yes. So the training that we do is for our 2 aircrafts, and it's 2 different type of doors you have to open, and you have to go through the module to physically do it, and you have an instructor there watching you. If you can't
Okay.
do it, you fail, and then you only can fail so many times, and then you're done.
You're done. You're out.
That doesn't happen very often, but that's the course of action.
Well, on a recent trip, I swear the flight attendant, she was a woman, had to be like 85. Now, she must have been stronger than she looked, but
She's scrappy.
she's
real scrappy.
Scrappy young lady, old lady.
During training, if you can just do it that once,
That's all
all
it takes.
you need.
So she's just rested up.
So I mean, yeah,
Vitamins like crazy.
lift with your legs. I don't know.
All right, so I don't want to know how much you make, but what is the range? Like, so the purser has a little bit more responsibility, probably makes a little bit more money.
Yes, and I don't know the amounts of that because it's not my airline, but
Okay.
in each airline, if they have a union or not a union,
Yeah.
things are negotiated. But starting out as a flight attendant, you don't start out very much, and it's a very low base pay. And over the years, you get to a certain point, it gradually gets more, and then how you can work your schedule, you can make more. And really, it's like about 10 years into your career, then it's better. The first 10 years, it's
It's true of a lot of careers,
yeah,
right?
you know,
Yeah.
It is.
you get to that turning point.
Right.
And so starting out, it's a little struggle. Then you get to the decent wage, and then life can be comfortable.
Right.
But there's also the perks, right, that you get
Yes.
to hop on and go.
Well, the
with.
flexibility and the perks are a big part
That's
of
a
doing
huge
the
part.
job, right?
Yeah.
All right.
It's funny, I've heard this from stories. I haven't talked to the people, but when they're new and they don't have a lot of money and, all the bills are tight and groceries are tight, they'll take a flight that serves meals and they'll go
So
to
they can-
Europe
just
and they'll
to
sit
get
in
the
business class and get all this stuff and then fly back.
Wait, so they pay? So they're not working? They're just
Yeah.
taking the
Yeah.
flight?
Yeah.
For, okay, fantastic.
Just to eat.
Well, and I think they do it because it's like, and you can sleep on the flight
Sure.
too. So it's like, hey, I just slept, ate, free drinks, and now I'm coming back home.
A way to make ends meet. That's classic. Speaking of sleeping, on the long flight. So going to Japan is it's the longest flight I've been on, and that was a really long flight. I think it was 14 hours. Can flight attendants sleep on the plane? When they're on a shift.
It's with the regulations, and it's kind of weird because flight attendants can be extended longer if there's like another crew member added. So it's a difference with the regulations, how it's worded, and how you can get by things. There are like sleeping rooms, or not really a room, but like a place that they can go if they have, and like each person is supposed to take shifts.
They rotate.
But then also,
Wait, where is that room?
it's not really a room. Like I was just on a flight, and there was this curtained off area of the seats that are behind, and all the curtains went around, and I've never seen it before. And I was kind of like,
So just
oh,
a regular seat, just the last row type thing? Or?
no, it was in the business class and was off to the side, and this curtain went around, and so that must be the little room you go in, and it was on the beds, and so they just probably slept in there. And it said something about crew members only on the
Really?
outside of it. And I'm assuming other airlines, different aircraft setups have similar, but something like that. But also too, if I'm going to make up the number, if it's you have to have 10 people on that flight. If you add another person, then it means they can actually fly longer. And it does. No one actually
Because you're
gets.
spreading the work out across more people.
Well, that's what it's supposed to be, but everyone else is just as tired. You just have
Okay.
one more person. Is
Sure.
the reality of it.
So what is the best part about your job? Is it the flexibility? Do you like the work itself, the people?
Well, what's funny is because like the work, everyone thinks like it's just a sky waitress, and the work is we're there
I didn't
for
say
the.
that. Did you say that?
Yeah, I don't know everybody that you're
Oh,
talking
okay, not
about. but
every. So a lot of people have said that, but
Sky
to me,
waitress.
because they just feel like you serve drinks. But the customer service of dealing with people, and it's kind of like you're a counselor because you have to deal with people's problems, or you do wear a lot of different hats, even with amongst crew members, and we're there for the safety aspect of it, and that's what primarily we're trained on. How often we use that? Not so often, because you don't want to use
Right.
that, but that's
Hopefully
what
never.
you're trained for. And because flights are long and you want people to be occupied, otherwise they're bored and stuff, that's where the service comes in, and that's what everyone recognizes is just flight attendants doing the service. But what I like about it is, again, the combination of things. It's like, just even if I was to go into a small city, and I'll use like Dubuque, I would never have chose to go there just on my own, but we went there, had to overnight. It was a neat little city, see stuff that places I wouldn't choose, and flying home, I'm just like, it's kind of neat. I just get to go somewhere. People that fly for business, they might have their meetings from, 8 to 5, and they fly in the morning and leave in the evening. They don't really get to explore and see stuff. And I think as a crew member with an airline, you get to explore more and check stuff out. And that, with the flexibility and just the lifestyle, I think that's what the job is. It's a different lifestyle than other people's jobs.
Okay. How tired are you of showing people how a seatbelt buckle works?
The funny thing about that, so often they'll grab the same two ends, and I get people like,
Like
I don't know how
You're
it's.
kidding-
Yes.
you're kidding
The
me.
two female
You're
ends and
kidding
trying to
me.
Slam them
And
together.
I probably at least once a month.
Morons.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Do you just escort them off the plane? Just go,
You're
too
not
stupid.
smart enough
I'm
to
sorry,
fly."
You failed.
It's the same person that can't open their bag of peanuts, but
Boom!
because I get asked that all the time. They're like, "Can you open these?" And I'm like, there's a
Why
little
don't you
tear
share
tab
with
on
it?
it.
Do you just kind of stare them down
Well,
as you're
wait,
peeling
so,
it back?
so if somebody's trying to put two of them together that are the same. That means the guy next to him's trying to put.
He's just watching, like, am I seriously sitting next to this moron?
You know, I always think like, well, that's probably the person I'm not saving. I don't know.
Right, you're gonna die, sir.
I'm getting his oxygen. I'm just using both.
And I'm saying come this way, they're going the opposite way.
Yeah, I assume you're just sitting there watching this
Right,
person. Like, how long are they going to keep slamming these two?
Something you can get angry for those things, people asking you dumb questions, or you think that they're dumb, and I think it's funny because just like even with bags, you get used to what size fits on your aircraft, and I know what size doesn't. So when people are coming on, it's like that's not going to fit, and they're like, I take it on every flight. It's like, okay, every flight's not the same, and I'm pretty easygoing. I just say, okay, go try it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and then if not, I say you have to bring it back up here. You know, I could come get it, but I'm thinking you're the one that wants to bring it on. Bring it back to me.
You fight your way back to the front.
So this guy's like, it fits on all these flights, and I saw him try all different directions. Then he walks it up. He's like, I guess you're right. And I'm thinking like, you know, but
you did the mature thing. You said, oh,
yeah.
okay.
And I was like, okay, could you check that for? And he goes, well, where are you guys staying? And he goes, I'll buy you a beer. And I'm like, no, you know. And he joked about it, but it's nice. And most people are pretty good.
Attendants where they're staying, and they don't tell me.
I don't think that's a good thing to do.
We're not supposed to.
No,
that's
of course
yeah.
not. Right.
You know, so that goes to a line of question I have. So you've been doing it for 24 years, which is fantastic because you've seen a lot of changes, I would imagine, right? What in the beginning of your career, for instance, what would you say was the makeup between male and female flight attendants? Was it more heavily weighted towards women back then, or was it pretty evenly split? Or what? I guess I'm jumping.
So when I first started, again at the regional carrier, I think out of Minneapolis base, we had like 38 flight attendants. 4 of them were guys.
Jeez.
And I think actually that was probably a generous number for just being
10%.
You know, that amount. And then we had a big hiring spree, and throughout the years it's fluctuated from 200 to 300. And so now we probably have, if it's 300, maybe 50, 55 guys out of that number.
All right, do the math.
6%.
I'm a flight attendant, I don't do math.
Yeah, right. So higher percentage, but still.
Yeah.
20%.
And I think too,
60.
it was more scoffed at back then, being a male flight attendant, and it's becoming more mainstream, guy flight attendants. But the ironic thing, if you travel on foreign carriers, a male flight attendant is predominant instead of the female.
Really?
Yeah. So like
is Nippon Air is one of the Japanese airline?
I don't know about that one, but I just know like some Mexico Airlines.
Oh, really?
It's more of a male privilege to be a flight attendant than females on that. And I noticed I was just on a flight out of Italy on an Italian airline, and there was more male flight attendants on that plane than female flight attendants. And I don't know if that goes across their whole airline or if it was just that flight.
Sure. Small sample size is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. You know, so you, I know I was ask you. So,
because you look.
yeah, I looked at my questions. That's all I know.
That's it.
What is the hardest part of your job that no one realizes like a huge pain?
I think the hardest part is the lack of sleep. It's
really?
kind of like because you're on a different schedule, and I'll take a variety of people, not just myself, because you could have a 7-hour day, 10-hour day, 14-hour day, could be 16, and if you're delayed, it gets longer. You have up and down times. If you're flying out of New York, you have a lot of sit time on the aircraft where you're just taxiing and it wears on your body. And the physical thing of just having those long days, you're beat at the end of it. When you're done working, you're done. And besides that physical thing, once you get well rested, then it's a new day and it's good. And that's why there's so many regulations on stuff, is because of the sleep and just the lack of being able to do your best ability for your job.
So, you know, one of the things, worst part of your job, it's safer now than it's ever been. That's what, you know, the little research I've done is like it's safer to fly than it's ever been before. So it's probably not related to accidents or flight mishaps. What's the worst part of your job? Is it just stupid passengers, or is it?
It's kind of funny because the worst part of my job is probably Not the passengers and maybe not the sleep. I think it'd be dealing back and forth with the company because you might think rules are this way, but the company thinks it's this way. And it's so like you get people that are new and don't know, and so everyone has their own opinion how this rule is supposed to be and looking at it different. So that is probably one of the hardest parts.
That's worse than like drunks and people propositioning you.
And what the funny thing about that is I think a female would probably say a different answer.
Oh, really?
And as being a male in this job, I noticed that I get talked to different than a female flight attendant does.
Really?
I think a male passenger that's trying to get away with something talks different to a female flight attendant. And with me, it's more of a short answer, and they don't try as hard to try to do something because they think like I'm going to get nowhere. Or maybe it's just me. I'm not sure.
Well, so what kind of stuff are they trying to get away with? Like getting a bag on that's not supposed to be on? Or?
Getting stuff for free or sitting where they're not supposed
drinks.
to, or because typically a guy, tries to flirt with the female flight attendant. It's harder to flirt with the male flight attendant. I think.
No, it's not.
It just depends. No.
Right. Well, I'm assuming. Well, I shouldn't assume this. Do you get propositioned? I mean, because
no, but I wouldn't say it's really a proposition. A couple weird stories.
Okay.
So flying to a destination, I guess I had these passengers that had me on the flight out. Now they have me on the flight going back.
So they feel
to
like
their
they
town.
know you.
And so it's like, oh, it's the flight attendant we know. And we were overnighting, and it was in South Dakota. And the lady on the way out handed me, she was married with her husband, their number on a Snickers wrapper. And
Very classy.
I know.
Very
and they
classy.
said, while you're in town, if you need anything, feel free to give us a call. And I was like, okay.
Like the rest of the
With a
Snickers.
picture of a swing.
And so I was just all like, and it's funny, I turned that into my supervisor. I said, I don't know if this is a good letter or not.
But the Snickers was delicious.
No, they didn't give me the Snickers.
Right.
It was just
Yeah,
the wrapper.
Just the wrapper.
Yeah. So that was the weirdest one.
Yeah,
And then there's been, I could tell, a male passenger that, because I'm a male flight attendant, they don't know if I'm straight or gay. And so I can just tell by the reaction, they're like, I kind of think they're hitting on me, but, just like, whatever. Yeah.
Hey, good attention is
Yeah.
good attention, right?
Yeah.
Well, so I do, again, if we were interviewing a female passenger, do they get hit on a lot?
Yes, they get hit on a
Thank
lot
you,
more.
flight attendant,
And
yes. To probably an annoying level, I would imagine.
and some of them like it more than others. It's just like they'll flirt with it, and they'll
Sure.
just kind of, and it probably depends if you're single, not single. And but I did training, and in training, someone said to the flight attendant I was training, and she was a female, a very rude comment about being a flight attendant that I bet you all the guys want to be with her now. And
Wow.
she came and told me that, and I was like, do you want me to say something? And when I looked at him, he was just staring at me like, oh my God. He didn't, she goes, no. And the funny thing about it, I went to high school with this girl.
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah,
and so we had a good rapport and stuff. She's like, I'm totally fine. And she's like, I just wanted to let you know.
Sure.
Because I was there. And he never said anything more. And then he just sat there like, because I didn't think he knew I was on the flight until I was standing there and staring at him. And I was way up in the beginning in the cabin, but now he just didn't say anything, looked out the window. So
Busted. Totally busted.
So I would assume comments like those
Yeah.
probably are more frequent to female flight attendants.
Yeah.
One of the annoyances, it's rare that I have anybody famous when I'm flying, but every once in a while there's somebody that's famous. And it drives me nuts when other passengers go up and start, it would drive
Doing
me
the
nuts
fan
if,
thing?
yeah,
Yeah.
doing the fan thing, and it's like, there's not a lot of room here. I mean, I imagine you have to like
I
push
haven't,
people back to their seats every once in a while.
I haven't
'cause
had anyone that famous for people to
Nobody's
come
going to
up.
Dubuque
But they
that,
actually know. But like this actor, I didn't know until I asked someone else, and they told me. But his name's Shamar Moore. He was going to La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
He was on the soap opera. He's on the TV show. He was in the Catwoman movie with Halle Berry.
Okay.
I don't.
Was he acting like he was big stuff?
No, not at all.
or-
He was just sitting in front,
okay.
and he was going to like some opening of a mall to do like sign autograph promotion, and some people behind him said, "Hey, you're Shamar Moore. Can I get your autograph?" And so he pulled out a picture and signed it and gave it to him. And I thought, should I ask for one for my wife or? But I said, asked her about it, and she didn't know who he was, until I said to another flight attendant friend, like, oh, this guy was on my flight. She goes, did you get an autograph for me? I'm like, I didn't know who he was, so no, I didn't. So,
You're just supposed to automatically get an
Yeah.
autograph.
So wait,
Yeah.
so not only do I have to be annoyed by the passengers, now I have to be annoyed by the crew that are going to try and get his autograph.
except for, like, I haven't had a ton of people, but just kind of my short list. From the Monkees.
Davy Jones.
No.
Peter York, Torque,
York. I think
York.
it is.
No.
getting it wrong.
Is it Mickey?
Mickey
Ro-
Rourke.
Mickey
No,
Rourke.
No,
that's
not
the
Mickey
other actor.
Right.
Mickey
Dolenz.
Dolenz.
Yeah, Mickey Dolenz.
When he? How long ago? Because
That was probably
1968.
no, probably in the last 4 years.
oh, okay.
So
Okay.
So he's
Not
not nothing
Yeah.
in but and then Bo and Luke Duke, the dark-haired one.
Luke. I
Duke.
don't know. From
Dukes of Hazzard.
Dukes of Hazzard.
I know, I'm going way back. See, that's why mine are like
Yeah, I
all way
should-
back.
These are throwback names.
So that's why no one recognizes.
I'll do the star stuff. You can stop.
okay.
No, I'm kidding.
See, I'm terrible with it. That's why I don't get an autograph.
Yeah. Right.
I always say, do you know who I am?
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the things you've lived through, or worked through, I should say, is the 9/11, right? So how has
Oh,
things
wow.
changed from the time you were flying before 9/11 till, I mean, obviously a lot of new regulations and things like that, but has it made your job a lot tougher?
After, for the next like 5-7 years, I'd say it was tougher because just with the regulations and so strict and what you can bring and passengers. And then it started to loosen up a little bit. And not that it loosened up, but you narrow down really what you're looking for, what they're doing to streamline it. And flying, people are doing it more and more every day. You couldn't keep the same restrictions and have the same amount of traffic because no one's going to make their flight. So you have to combine everything, and then with new technology and the machines that they have, it's just for detecting stuff, that makes things easier. So things are going to just always keep changing. And for a crew member, it made it difficult for a while, but then also it gets easier too because you have background checks for yourself with the company and everything, so you get to bypass the normal line of where passengers are. And it used to be everyone was in the same line.
Right.
So when, I imagine in the first few years especially, people were pointing out things that they thought were suspicious or people who they thought were suspicious, like, was that good, bad, horrible? I mean, what would you do if somebody
'cause
said,
I
I think this gentleman is...
It's a lot of profiling that people do, and when
Right,
you're just
right.
a normal passenger.
Amateur profiling of
and
terrorists.
that's probably the bad thing, because they just get nervous for whoever's on their flight that they think's this. And excuse me, it could be a gamut of stuff. And so they're not trained on it. So you just take what they say with a grain of salt, unless they actually did say something or they're pointing something out, because people are going to have those feelings. And even though we have business people that fly all the time, they get used to it, and they're probably the easier person to handle. It's the person that doesn't travel that often that are more worried, and are
in
those
terms
are the
of
ones,
worried about other passengers.
yes, and that's probably where you hear the complaints, where they don't have the experience of a frequent traveler to just be in the atmosphere of that, to make observations on it. Everything to them is a threat.
So then do you get trained on like how to spot things that are irregular?
Yes.
Or
And so there's certain things I can't talk about.
Sure,
so.
of course, right. But I mean, I guess the
Yeah.
question would be, it's
How
good.
do we sneak
I know.
past
No, well,
security?
no. I mean, I'm glad that they
Yeah.
are training you on that. But what happens when I guess it depends on what it is that you see or hear or
Yes, and there's a
experience.
chain of command, and there's
Okay.
procedures we have to do in that yearly training I was talking about. So
Yep.
that's something that we do in that yearly training. So every year, it's new things come up, things are taken away, and we kind of get whatever's new out there, and the new things to look for that people are doing to try to hide stuff. So
Okay. And so, how have you had to kick somebody off the plane, or is that
No.
usually up the chain and the captain or pilot has to do that?
I cannot technically kick someone off as a flight attendant. You have to. There's always a pilot in command, which is the captain.
Okay.
And so you bring it to his attention. It's his call. But usually, it's if a flight attendant is uncomfortable with whatever situation's going on, they abide by that. And it's like, hey, you're the one back there. You have to call the agents, and you have this procedures you have to follow to do it, but someone can be kicked off.
So
And,
have you had someone kicked off?
I haven't had anyone kicked off for myself. Again, I think it's different being a guy flight attendant. It all comes back to the same. I think people that, I'll say an intoxicated person, are more obnoxious maybe with a female flight attendant that they can get away more with.
Sure.
But we can't have intoxicated passengers on the aircraft, so if it's noticed before, it's cut off right there, and then they don't get on the flight. So I've had that where they haven't even stepped foot on the plane.
They're just in the waiting area, totally
The
bombed.
agent said, this person seems intoxicated. Do you want him on? And it's like, we can't take him on, especially once you said that. And then we could see them in the window, and they're standing there just all wobbling. It's like, yeah, they're not coming on. So, and then it's taken care of.
Right. So somebody else had to answer.
So then they call
or?
security, and the security comes, and they help deal it with the agents.
Gate agents don't eventually become flight attendants. There's no.
Well, if the that's only if they want to. They have to interview, get hired.
It's a completely different. Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
It's a different career path.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes like
'Cause
people.
gate agents have a tough life.
Yeah.
Man, you couldn't pay me enough to be a gate agent.
If there's
Well,
no
you could.
weather and no mechanical, your day is great. But one of those things happen, then like just the other day, I won't want to be there.
Right.
Oh, for the.
But it could
the
be
Delta
mechanical
outage.
somewhere
Right,
else. It's
right.
not even, or the weather somewhere else, and
Yeah.
the plane's late coming in.
They have to
and
deal with it.
They
Yeah.
have to deal with constantly irate passengers.
That's the funny thing that you mentioned that, because a passenger complaining, the flight's delayed because of weather. Guy looks outside and it's sunny here. He goes, well, it's sunny here. Why aren't we taking off?
Right.
It's because the plane's coming from somewhere else
Right.
that has weather. And he didn't realize that.
Right.
So
Did he have trouble buckling his belt?
he
too,
probably was
or-
one of those guys. I don't know. So
Double, what is it? All-state double check. Can't make it fit.
So as a passenger, I have pet peeves, but I'm curious to know if you have any pet peeves that that passengers do.
it's that when they walk on board and they're like, I'll have my steak rare. You know, it's kind of, you get that all the
Oh,
time. So it's
okay.
like,
Oh, joking.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, gotcha. Because you've heard that a billion times.
Yeah, so that's probably, I mean, and it's not a big deal, but it's just the one that you hear all the time. It's like, you're really not a funny person, aren't you?
Right.
Back to I'll tell you a quick story. I work in manufacturing in IT, so I worked with a guy, and he was having to do some conversion of data, but he was on a flight because he's a consultant, and he's talking on his phone. Now, he's Middle Eastern to begin with. He's a U.S. citizen, he's lived here his whole life, but he looks Middle Eastern because he is Middle Eastern. Anyway, and he's talking about the converting of the routings, which is a manufacturing document, and the bill of materials. And the short name for bill of materials is BOM. And when you expand the bill of materials, it's called an exploded bomb. So he's on the phone, he's talking about converting the routings, but there's having problems, and he's talking about the bombs. Did the bombs load? Did the exploded bombs load? You know, it makes no sense, but he's saying this. Well, needless to say, several people were like, ding, ding.
And he got taken off.
He got taken off.
I was going to say, if that's one of the words, if that's ever mentioned and someone's talking about it, it always has to be brought up. And it's up to the captain again about being brought up or not. And they'll have someone come down to the plane and whatever the situation is. But most likely, someone will be taken off.
Yeah. And he was professional. He totally understood. He's like, yeah, I can't believe I was saying it, but I was just in the moment. But you got interviewed for like 4 hours.
He was that guy.
He was that guy. So what other kind of stuff are you seeing on there, for example?
For people being taken off? Or
No. So, sorry. Have you ever seen any kind of UFO or unexplained phenomena? You know, I mean.
I haven't seen it, but what I've heard is like, and I wouldn't say UFO, but it'd be like when it's lightning and stuff, where people say it's just a ball of light went through the cabin because
Really?
the plane got struck by lightning. And I was flying with these people. I didn't see this out my door, but the girl working in the back, she said she could see light coming in around the door, the exit in the back. And it was from the lightning because the air gets so electrified and we're flying so close. And I went up to the cockpit, and you could see on the windshield that they call it, I think it's St. Elmo's fire, but it's the little electrical lines just going zzz, 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 and they're kind of like a purplish blue, and it looked really cool. I'm like, hey, that's neat. Some people might freak out. I don't know.
Yes. So this must be a while ago if you were up in the cockpit, because you're not allowed in the cockpit now, are you? Or?
I can go in the cockpit. It's just there's a procedure. So,
okay.
You call, and then they have to make sure.
handshake, or how do you?
well,
you can't tell us, I suppose.
No, it's just like, the door has to be locked. Once I go up there, the other flight attendant comes up, block
Okay.
the galley. It's just kind of like a lot of work, and that's if someone comes out to use the bathroom. It's just the whole procedure. And then one of the guys has to have his oxygen on if the other pilot leaves.
Really?
And, yeah.
What's the idea there? I mean,
It's
just
just
the,
a-
like
decompression.
decompression.
Happens, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
in the cockpit.
Yeah.
So even if he's going to the bathroom, stick on the oxygen.
Yeah.
Right. So have you had any close calls? Anything that you?
I haven't had anything that was really bad except for bad turbulence. And I would say in 24 years, just one that scared me. And it wasn't, I don't know what that day was, but it was just like we just dropped. And so when you get that drop, I was in my seat. But you kind of think like, is today the day? You know?
Right.
And I mean, I could joke about it and everyone else.
Right.
It's funny, in those situations, everyone listens to you, which is
Yeah,
kind of
like-
nice because they're just staring at you and I'm like, I'm on. Yeah.
And you have to just pretend like nothing. You know, hey, it's just a
And that's-
10,000-foot drop. It happens.
Yeah. And for me, I guess I try to have that kind of calm way about myself so that people don't get alarmed. There's some people like, oh my gosh, and
I mean, flight attendants
yeah,
do that.
yeah, no, and it's like you're freaking everyone else out. Knock that off. You know, so
So do they train you for that too? Like they say, no matter what happens, you got to pretend it's not a
as
deal?
much as you can, you talk about it, but until you actually go through it,
Sure.
you
Right.
know, it's like you don't know how you're going to react.
Yeah.
A family friend is a male flight attendant. Doesn't matter that he was male or female, but broke his back because of the turbulence. He was up moving a cart or something, and you know it was a little choppy, and all of a sudden, wham! They got slammed, and
He hit the ceiling.
he hit the ceiling, and then came screaming back down onto the floor and
Ouch.
broke his back. Yeah,
He's done now.
He's done.
We had a lady that broke both her ankles, same situation. So she went up, came down, both ankles broke, and I don't believe she ever came back. So
Yeah.
It'd be hard to. I mean, you
yeah.
start thinking.
the fear and just I don't know how her body is healed now. You know, it's like that's another thing. You know, it's like sometimes it's just not worth it if you feel like that. If you got your body broke.
What about, so what are, generally your flights are how long?
I try to do ones under 1 hour.
Oh, so the chances of like a lot of stuff happening are probably minimized then?
Yeah, I mean, well, you can still have bad turbulence, but you won't get the big drops the same. So we're flying at a lower altitude and less likely of things happen. We'll have a lot more moderate chop because we're just low and it's going through the clouds. And it's people that are higher up, you'll get your bigger drop when you go through different atmospheres.
Haven't they gotten, I'm not expecting you to be an aviation expert, but haven't they gotten better at predicting the wind shears that cause those kind of things? Or is it still fairly common? I mean, I should ask you, you fly a lot. Do you?
But I fly. I mean,
Short distances too,
Yeah,
or?
I mean, 3 hours is about as far as I fly.
Okay.
But I mean,
And it changes because they'll call the city and it's the operations there, like, have they had any reports of other aircrafts coming in, like what it was, and then someone might have landed and say it's only moderate. So they're like, all right, it's moderate. We'll just kind of keep going. And then when you go through, then it gets severe for you. So then it's just worse. It's just,
I will say, I often the pilots come on and say, folks, I'm going to ask you to, buckle in because we might experience some. And I think it's that situation. Somebody in front of them has run into it and they've gotten very good at communicating because they say it before we ever get to the chop. I mean, and then
They know it.
yeah,
They know it's
and
coming.
then 2 minutes
Yeah,
later
it's a
you
good
kind of
point.
get to the
I wonder
chop.
if it's like almost like Waze, where
Right, yeah,
people are
yeah.
reporting, hey, I just went through this area, it was really bad.
they
watch
do
out
see
on
it
the
on their
cop.
radar,
Right,
on their radar that they have. They can see stuff coming and they give a warning. But what's funny, a lot of times they're like, well, it might be kind of rough, so why don't you sit down and buckle up? Nothing. It's just
Sure.
a smooth flight. And then
Yeah.
everyone's staring at you like, well, why are you sitting down? Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, I don't have a problem with
Yeah.
that. Like, I'd rather know that I should buckle in and cinch up
Except for I
tights,
do
but-
tell the pilots, like, say something so they know why we're doing nothing. Yeah. Like,
Well, so that's a good question. So you fly with all different types of pilots, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's different pilots all the time, or maybe it's not. I mean, how many pilots do you work with?
again, it depends on, like, everyone bids their schedule for what their life is. And
Yep.
so you'll see some people frequently, because I have almost like a permanent schedule, missing a few cities here and there, but and some other people will do that. But you'll get a variety of new people coming in, or if someone calls in sick and people on vacation, so everyone gets kind of swapped around. And you can go for 3-6 months without seeing that same person, or you could work with that same person for a whole month.
Are you talking pilots or
Yeah.
other crew members?
Well,
Both, probably.
Both.
Yeah. So if you were to think of the 3 most annoying people you work with, Are any of them pilots, or are they all flight attendants? Or are none of them?
Well, I guess working with them, it'd have to be a pilot or flight attendant. But it's because everyone has a different personality. It's the gamut, because you get.
Not going to say it, folks.
Yeah, are flight attendants and pilots
It's
in this?
Bob Jones.
But it's just their personalities and how they operate. And some people, it's just like at work, you like to deal with them, or you just like say hi and keep going. But when you're caught in the cabin, the hard thing with our pilots, they have a door, so
they just close it.
Yeah, and it's like you don't see them. But
Yep.
the flight attendant, you're stuck in the cabin with them. And for me, again, I think it's different. I mostly work with women when I work with somebody, and I think guys and girls get along easier than if it's two girls. They have more problems with each other than like a guy and a girl or two guys. Just throughout the years, it's just that's where you see more of the attitudes, or people can't let go of things.
So if you're doing those short flights, I'm constantly amazed at how fast they, you know what I mean, because they serve you drinks no matter what. You're getting a Coke, you're getting a Coke and cookies.
Oh, really?
Well, because
If you fly to Chicago, it's a 55-minute flight, and you're getting a Coke and cookies or whatever you want.
it's for us, it's based on mileage. So Chicago is a service flight, but like I had flights to La Crosse, Wisconsin. That's not a service flight.
Okay.
Because
you can take a flight from Minneapolis to La Crosse. What is it, like 15 minutes? Or?
that's about 25. The one that's 15 minutes is Rochester, Minnesota. And so
People fly to Rochester?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's
but you
crazy.
think of you're coming from Florida, Minneapolis,
Oh,
Rochester. So you're not like getting
yeah.
on in Minneapolis going to Rochester.
Right.
So they're coming from distance doing that.
Okay.
And a lot of people are going there for medical reasons. And so on those flights are the ones I always think of. Hopefully not on my flight.
For the medical ones, right. Well, have you had any of that? Like where a person, passes out or has, baby on flight?
I haven't had anything drastic, but this is early in the career. So
Because your flights were probably longer early in the career, right?
no, I was flying to Fargo. And so going to Fargo, I was training someone in, and this is when we could just
Nobody
have
wants
free
to
access.
go there, so the rookie has to go to Fargo.
But at that time, I had a key to the flight deck door, so I could open the flight deck anytime I go up there and talk to them before 9/11. And I was training someone in. She was going through doing the service. I said, hey, I'm going to see if the guys want anything to drink up front. So I go up there, and I'm just chatting away because it's someone I haven't seen in a while. And she calls up there, and the captain answered, and he's like, is Jason there? And he's like, no.
No, he's out. He's gone.
He said, he goes, we left him in Minneapolis. And there was dead silence on the phone. And I'm like, I'll just go back there. And so I go back there, and this lady's like, we have this lady having chest pains. And I'm like, the time you're joking around.
Right, the one time.
So it wasn't major, but I had her put everything away, and I'm the seasoned flight attendant, so I said, okay, I'll take it from here. You just say an announcement. I switched the person sitting next to her. I gave her oxygen, and we made an emergency landing. And so we get clearance to go in. Nothing happened to her on the flight, but just I was monitoring her, and we made an announcement that everyone stay seated because medical personnel is going to come on. They came on, got her off, and took her away. So nothing major.
Right.
But it's just still, I was just calm and just kind of dealt the situation, and I wasn't going to leave it to the new person because that's her first flight. So.
Right. So you've probably heard of other stuff from
Yes.
other...
A close friend I work with, she had someone die on her flight, and it
Early
was,
in the flight? Was it a long flight?
It was in the taxi, and no one knew. But
Taxi going out?
Yeah. So no one knew it
We're
besides passenger in front or behind rang the flight attendant call, and she came back and she goes, I think there's something wrong with that person, and they were already dead.
Oh my gosh.
So, and so they went back to the gate, obviously, and that flight got canceled. But
The whole flight got
Which is
canceled?
funny. I mean, it makes sense because you got to probably do an investigation.
well, because you get everyone off, and they probably found some other routing, or by that time you could book them on another flight,
Oh,
and
okay.
that person's still on there until they take them off, and
They're-
I don't know what
They're in
all
no
goes
hurry,
into that.
right?
Yeah,
They're just going to sit
the guy
there.
in the window seat has to climb over the dead guy.
And then because of that
This isn't funny,
situation, you
sorry,
don't use that
folks.
same crew because that crew will probably get interviewed by the company and they have to fill out forms, and
Sure.
so they're pulled off, and so you have to call
Yeah.
another crew in. So that's why they probably got rebooked on another flight.
Gotcha.
Makes sense.
A lot of logistics
Yes,
going into
and that's-
someone dying. So what about, short flights, less likely people are going to get into, monkey business? Is that the official term
We're
for it?
going there?
So what do you mean by monkey business?
Well,
though?
there's a term, the Mile High Club. I haven't searched
I've
it
never
on
heard
the
of
internet,
this term
but-
before.
I would say,
don't know what you're
I mean,
speaking of.
it depends on who you are. If the short flight's enough time for you, but
Good point. Good point.
I haven't had that happen. But I've had flight attendants had that happen too, and it's probably when we have flights that are 2.5, 3 hours. So
Sure.
we have longer ones, and that would be your typical. And a story again wasn't mine.
Yep.
She was walking by. It was a dark cabin, and they were doing something. And she goes, "I just threw a blanket over them and kept going."
That's very accommodating.
Yes, and
Is that procedure? Is that what
no.
she should have done? Like,
we don't really
Extra
have
blanket
procedure
for
on
them.
that.
you don't?
Because it's funny because no one really talks about it. They're probably like, it would probably be a report that, and you could have authorities come to the plane. It's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just
Right,
like,
right.
Kind
But
of
I
like
mean, I would-
discharging your weapon if you're an officer. You don't want to do the paperwork.
Well, I would
so-
think there'd be like, hey, we're going to bring the cabin lights up for 5 minutes. I don't know. It seems like there would be something to...
And
Blue
yell,
light
and yell,
special.
shame, shame,
Yeah,
shame.
just, there's a time and place for, it's your workplace. This is your workplace.
and it's funny because I do night flights, so you think it would be mine, but I haven't had that. But our planes are smaller, and it's a smaller bathroom. You probably only can get one person in it. So that's the other thing.
Sure.
So no, I guess I'm boring on that. Other people are the ones with the stories, not me. And
No.
again, I wonder too if it's the guy flight attendant aspect. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be. That could be.
Maybe next time
So-
you could bring some of your friends that have these stories.
Except for a good, well, again, not my story. We used to have really small planes, and I don't know if you've ever been on the ones without flight attendants. When I first started my career,
How small of a
it
plane
was a
is that?
13-seat. It was called a Metro, and they would fly.
I've been on them, but there's always at least one person that, at least the ones
Well,
lately.
not the place I was in. So this was, 1992, 93. They would fly like to St. Cloud. Maybe they'd fly to the same places, but a little bit shorter distance. But Mitchell, South Dakota is a gentleman's club, so they would fly a lot of ladies out there. And the pilot said there was only one guy and one lady on the flight. And when they were flying, it just kind of got bumpy and stuff. And all they have is a curtain. They look back, and they're just laying right in the middle of the floor.
Oh my God.
Wow.
All right. I have been on a small, it's not even close to that story.
Wait, where are you going? Because this is being recorded.
I got nothing related to that. What I
Yeah.
was going to say, I've been on a flight where it's just the pilot, and I think it was maybe 8 passengers, 4 on each side. And it is very weird when the pilot just kind of opens the curtain, goes, "Okay, folks, we're going to be," you don't ever want that interaction. You kind of want to know that some guy's up there taking care of everything.
Right.
Some people like the fantasy of they have their image of what the pilot should look like and doing their job. Because like if a young guy comes out, everyone's always freaked out about a young guy because they're like, "Oh, is he old enough? Does he have enough experience?" And what's funny is like you can get your license at any time. You just have to retire at a certain age. So there's some guys that they've had a career, and then now they've been having their private license, but they got their commercial license and stuff, and they got enough hours, and they have white hair. So just because they have white hair, they look older, like they have experience. The guy's been there less than a year, so he has
right.
like
It's all perception.
And the guy that's younger has way more experience, and so it is a big perception thing.
So are there, the company you work for, how many of the pilots are female? I mean, is it probably the reverse then that you have?
No, I would say there's less female pilots.
Yeah.
And then also, in any job like where it's the opposite, like if you think flight attendants mostly female, pilots mostly male, you always need the diversity in there. And so when someone gets hired for a job, sometimes, it's like they have to have some of the mix. So you have a little bit. And if they start with our smaller airline, they can get hired on to bigger airlines quicker than probably a lot of the guys can, just because there's not as many.
Sure.
And
sure.
so you'll see them and they come and go. So
Really?
yeah. And then also too,
Because they're moving up into bigger planes? Or?
yeah. And
Okay.
so for a pilot, that is a drastic thing with money, moving from a smaller carrier to a bigger one. Flight
okay.
attendants, it's not as drastic.
Sure.
And so, and it takes you longer to get, like where I am with seniority at a major carrier. Like what I have would probably be 50 years at some carrier. And it's like
Really?
people will never see the schedule I get at a major carrier getting hired. And it's just because there's so many people, and know what, you don't have to retire as a flight attendant, and they work till they're 85, 90.
All right, so two other questions. The first one is, we're moving towards driverless cars, and there's been talk about pilotless airplanes. Do you think we'll ever have airplanes take off and land with passengers without pilots?
I could see it. I think it's a long ways off because a lot of planes are automated. A lot of the stuff is automated, but I think they would always need somebody there. So you might need just less people because there's always malfunctions. Mm-hmm. So you always have to have a backup. So what's the backup? So you have the one person that's trained with everything there, even though they're probably sleeping most of the time. But I guess I wouldn't see just automated with nobody.
I don't think I could feel comfortable flying on a plane with knowing that no one is up beyond that door.
I'm still uncomfortable with the concept of a car. So
true,
it would really be hard to believe you could.
All right, and then the last question was...
Your last question.
Yes,
I've got them.
well, go ahead.
No,
what do you
I'm
got?
kidding.
All right. Well, so I know that you recently took a trip. One of the big perks is that you get to take very cheap flights. So how does that work? You pay just the taxes? Is that what it is?
It's funny, when you travel more, you find out more about it. So on the carrier that I work with, when we travel in the United States, it's free. And when we travel out of the United States, it's a tax. But it's only a tax when you come back to the country, not going out. So we just went to Italy. And going to Italy.
You and the family?
Yes. So there's 4 of us, 2 girls and my wife and myself. And whatever seats are open is what you get. And usually if the nicer seats are open, you get bumped up to that. So we got business class going out all 4 of us.
Wow.
And I've never been in business class before. And it was so nice because we had the beds that would lay down, and we got our little free Toomey kit, and it had like a down pillow, almost like a down comforter. It had these imitation Bose headphones, and I was like, I could fly there and back home and I'd be happy. I mean, it was so nice.
Couple of things real quick. So that comforter, are they taking that off? Like, is it one-time use, or did the guy, the big,
No, so I
What a
up there.
guy like me.
I wasn't pointing at you.
Right at me.
It's in plastic, so the next flight it'll
be a new one.
Right,
yeah,
but they're not stuffing it back in plastic and sealing it up.
Fold it up.
Yeah.
Well, that's not my department, so maybe I don't know. No, I don't think we are.
Different carrier.
Yeah,
That's the guy
I
bringing
don't
the
believe
food
so.
up.
Okay, all right. But go ahead. You were saying. So then, coming back.
So coming back is when you pay the taxes. So depending on what country you're coming back from, the taxes are different. So if we were coming back from Italy, it's one price. If we would took a train and went up to Paris and came back, it's a different price.
Okay.
If we went to, so it fluctuates.
All right.
And then that's the price you pay. And in different countries are more expensive. And I think Heathrow is the most expensive to come back on.
Really?
So if you're going to fly into there, then take a train to somewhere else and come back.
Fly. So you dodged my question about, if you notice that, how much you can make as a flight attendant. See if you'll dodge this one. How much did it cost for your family to fly to Italy and back? Is that?
Well, I can say
it's
this.
just the taxes, right?
But it's kind of a 2-part question for me because
okay.
I couldn't make it back on the airline that I'm associated with.
Okay.
So we have agreements with other carriers.
Yep.
So
kind of reciprocity, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the carrier that I worked for, it would cost $263 for the 4 of us.
God,
And
to fly to Italy and back
yeah.
for 4.
And we got business class on the way there, and then on the way back, we were just hoping for a seat. So.
Right.
But because there was a European carrier that was having a strike, flights got all screwed up, and so we took an Italian airline back, and you have to pay a fee plus the taxes. So we flew to Chicago, and that was $562 for the 4 of us. So a little bit more, but
Still, for a family of 4
Yeah.
to take a flight, that's pretty amazing. All right, well, we're quickly running out of time, and I want to get to one of my favorite things, which is
We're almost out of time. It's so much fun. It's gone so fast.
just edit him out completely. Don't
No,
worry.
I've enjoyed this.
You've been great.
I hope you have.
I've been enjoying this immensely. Lightning round. We just run through some questions. You're involved. You both get asked the question. We alternate them. First off, high school nickname. Did you have a high school nickname?
no.
Any time in your life did you have a nickname?
When I was younger, one kid called me Chuck because he thought my head was round like Charlie Brown.
One
Wow.
kid, one name. All right. What about you? Nickname?
Swanee.
Swanee for Erik Swanson. Okay. All right, so if let's say you inherit $10 million, right? What are the first 3 things you buy for yourself?
Go with him.
Okay.
Oh, I was liking that you were asking him first. I gotta believe I'd pay off all my bills.
Okay.
That's the. I mean, that's
so hopefully that's
mortgage.
still
that's,
$9 million more. Or
yeah, a
something,
little
right?
more than that. Yeah, I think you buy a house in the mountains and you buy a house on the beach. So you got
Okay.
You
two,
got
two nice houses and
Yeah.
no bills.
yeah.
All right. He bought you some
I
time?
would buy a classic sports car.
Oh, really?
And my
Like-
favorite is like the old, I think it's 1956, 62 Porsche Speedster.
Okay.
And then a place in like Italy or France, and then pay off everything. So
Right. No bills. All right. All right. What about? Here's one for you. What friends do you have that you see more often than the guy that cuts your hair, or female, whoever cuts your hair? So you go to the barber every once in a while, like
Yeah.
every 6 weeks or whatever. Do you have any? How many friends, if any, do you see more often than that person?
It sounds bad that I see a lot of friends way more often.
Do you?
Yeah.
That's great.
Because
that doesn't sound bad at all. That's the right answer.
I'm a social person, so I always want people over at my house. I always want to get together. I always want to go somewhere. I always want to do something. And my wife just wants me to stay home and just have us.
Well, that's a different situation. But,
Yeah.
So you're seeing a lot of guys. That's and a lot of friends.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. What about you?
All of them.
You see all.
How often do you think I go to a barber?
Oh, good point. Good point. All right. So
Buff and shine.
this was this sounds like you have the answer to this one. What celebrity people tell you look like? Charlie Brown. Is that the only celebrity?
No.
Who do you
Usually
get?
I have a little goatee, and when I play
It's
a lot
like a
of
soul patch or
yeah,
an actual
yeah.
goatee?
So a little soul patch. And when
Okay.
I play a lot of tennis, and I wear a headband, and they say I look like Apollo Ono.
There you go.
Oh, I can see that.
So-
I totally see that.
I see
That's
that.
good.
Yeah.
I don't have that look going today, but that's the look I have when I play
Yeah.
tennis.
Paulo Ono. What about you?
Pat Kessler from one of the local 9 or Channel 9
I'll have to
news.
look that up. I don't
And
know.
he's kind of a doughy guy like me.
Doughy.
No offense,
Because that's what
Pat.
you go for.
Yeah, I'm sure he's watching.
Yeah, might be.
What's the most valuable prize you've ever won? Money, value of the thing.
I haven't won anything that valuable.
Mine is a $5 scratch-off thing at Taco Bell.
That's it?
Yeah.
I won a
$5?
computer once.
What was the situation?
It was a trade show like thing, and you
Throw in your
random
card?
drawing. Yeah, random drawing.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
They announced it. There were 700 people in the room, and I walked up and got my Toshiba laptop.
I think mine are like concert tickets, like when you call in, because it's
You
whatever.
call
that-
in for concert tickets?
Yeah.
Do you have a secret for doing it? Do you know?
No, I just randomly called and I was like, I made it through, and it was the only one time. And
What
so
was the concert?
It was a KDWB thing, and so it was for Halloween. So I got 4 tickets. So it was just me and my wife and 2 friends went to it, and I can't think of the band's name. I know the songs, but I can't think of the name. So
Was it a good concert?
Was it the
it
Cure?
was okay. It wasn't the Cure.
Okay. And let's see. One more here. I think we got time. Here's a tough one. This is a would you rather, right? Yeah, would you rather? Would you rather, if you had to, throw trash in Yellowstone Park, like out your car window, or park in a handicapped parking spot on Black Friday?
I'd park in a handicapped parking spot.
You would. And why would you do that? Versus throw the trash.
I'm a recycle type of guy.
There you go, Eric.
I'd throw the trash.
Throw the trash.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't want to get
Well-
killed in the parking lot over a parking spot.
When you get out of your car
Yeah.
and you just stroll
I
on
just
in.
make sure I limp when I walk out of my car.
Act the part. There you go. All right. Well, we are out of time, so thank you very much. First of all, Jason, thanks
for having me.
showing up. This has been fantastic. Answered all my questions about being a flight attendant and flying. Eric, great job as a
My
co-host.
pleasure. Thanks. I hope
thank
to be asked back.
You very well might be. And again, thanks for tuning in, and have a great night.